Think back to your childhood. What kind of things do you remember? Do you remember believing in magic? Your favorite present was the one that came in the biggest box, and your bestest friend in the whole wide world was somebody that nobody else could see? Well, I don't remember a childhood like that. In fact, my very first memory is around the age of 4, and it's of my mother telling me that she's leaving to go give me a better life. And instantly I became sad at the thought of losing my mommy. And that night, as I watched her take her last crate to her gray hatchback, I cried so many tears it felt like it was raining. And that night, my uncle, in an attempt to soothe my pain, offered his body as a pacifier. For me, that night, my mother wasn't the only thing taken away from me. A few years later, I went with my aunt, who parented me with her strict religious ideals. I never felt affection, attention, or wanted. Her home was like a broken radiator. No matter how much you wanted, no warmth was coming from it. However, I did learn some valuable lessons during my time with her. I learned how to eat an ice cream cone without it spilling onto my fingers. I learned from a little boy down the street biting me in my back that all the grass in front of his house was his, and that you can believe all you want. Some dreams will just never come true. A few years later, my mother came back into my life and got custody of me. But living with her was difficult. She really didn't know how to parent me. However, not all of my childhood memories are bad. I do remember one time playing Nintendo with my cousin. Well, that was fun. And he said he had this other game he wanted to play that would be more fun. So he took me to his bedroom, and there was no game in his room, nor the bed where he directed me. And he told me that I was a special, incredible young man, and to just relax. And then he began to inflict a pain on me that I cannot put into words. But when he was done, he held me so softly, he wiped my tears, and he said something that forever changed me. He said, "I love you." So for me growing up, that's what love was. And that love hurts because what he did to me hurt. And I'm supposed to love him because he's family. So for me, that was what love was. And for the first time in my life, I actually felt loved. From the ages of 4 to 13, I've been loved by a total of 8 male family members close to me multiple times. I was a docile child. I was well behaved. I did good in school. And I respected adults. But secretly, I was afraid of people. Because of how my family members loved me, I figured strangers would crucify me. And then I met Jenny. Jenny was a senior in my high school class. I was not. I met her through my orchestra class. She was the first cheer viola. I was not. I was the third cheer. But we ate lunch together every day. While eating lunch one time, I confided in her about some things that had happened to me. And Jenny told me that growing up, the things that I had experienced was not love, but rape. And instantly my idea of love became a lie. I was overcome with sadness. I didn't experience any form of anger because I had been being conditioned to believe that this is what love was. And in one sentence, it was taken away from me. I just couldn't live after that revelation. And I know that May 26th was Jenny's last day. And she was going to be one more thing that was going to be taken from me. So that night, I ran away. I ran away from all the hurt, the pain, the lies, and the confusion that was my life. So my first night of freedom, others may call it homelessness, I did what I felt any real homeless person should do. I slept under a bridge. And I thought I picked a really good bridge because I was the only one underneath it. I lived this experience for about 2 months before I called my mother Collect and asking her if I could return home, even though I had no idea what kind of life I was returning home to. Back with my mother now, I'm 17 years old, I'm back in school, I'm doing really good, I have a job at a movie theater, and everything is okay. I even remember my mother had planned a backyard barbecue, and I got to be the DJ. So I was programming my mother's favorite Celine Dion song, and my uncle had came into the living room, and he raped me. Now this is an uncle who had not previously done that act to me before. I decided right then and there, never again. Never again would I allow another man to hurt me. A few years later, I was planning a New Year's Eve trip with my best friend, and I asked him to arrange a ride for us to the airport. He had sent this individual over to my house, whom I never had met before, and he and I got into a dispute over his payment, and he hit me. And instantly I went back to, never again. And I killed him. And the judge, during sentencing, said that he believed it was self-defense, but I complicated things. And he sentenced me to 15 years to life in prison. I was just 19 years old. You guessed it. I was sent to prison. I'm a slightly built, well-mannered individual. I was savagely, repeatedly, brutally raped. And I needed out. I didn't want to live anymore if living meant constantly being victimized. So I contacted mental health, and I was transferred from that prison, and I thought that I was free from it. But in all actuality, I was still broken. Life was like a blur of moments passing me by like tumbleweeds blowing in the wind, until one day I was in my computer class, and I was just staring at that blank computer screen, and I felt just like that screen. Blank, empty, and purposeless. And after a few moments of self-loathing, I turned the computer on, and as I watched that cursor blink on that Word document, almost instinctively I began to type. I typed things that I felt, things that I thought, feelings that I couldn't even previously put into words, and I even wrote some poetry. Because I found that getting it out helped, and keeping it was destructive. Because every time I gave it power, I was being victimized all over again. So I had to get rid of it. I became unlocked. Many of you may not know this, but we have foot lockers that we use to store our possessions. A master lock is used to secure it and keep it safe. I use this lock every day. It was my own personal safety talisman. And one day, I remember I was walking down the hallway, and I remembered that I forgot to lock my lock. So I ran down the hallway, I got back to my cell, I went to the lock to secure it, and I thought, how ridiculous. I don't need that anymore to feel safe. I feel safe and healed on the inside. So I stopped using it. And it wasn't long before I realized that I had even forgotten the combination. And I threw it away. When I got rid of that useless weight, I gained something. I no longer needed it to lock my stuff or myself. I've went through traumas that no person should endure, but I stand here today a better person because my yesterdays no longer dictate my todays or tomorrows, and my present is free from contamination from my past. So whatever your circumstances are, you can heal yourself. I'm proof of that. Thank you for listening.